Good evening and good day, whatever time it is for you. I'm thankful that you're here. I'm looking forward to spending time with you. Hey, everyone in the chat, welcome in, welcome in. It is so nice to see you. I'm feeling pretty decent today, all things considered. I'm feeling pretty decent. How are you doing? I want to know all about you. This is going to be a little bit different of a show. Heather, hey, Heather, I noticed that you commented a while ago. I don't know if you're here with us now, but if you are, thank you for the early comment, girlfriend. Ben says, Tara, Tara, Tara. Ben, I'm so glad to see you. It's always a pleasure. Scott Len in the house. Hey, Scott Len, nice to see you. I'm so glad you're here. So I want to introduce myself first and foremost. My name is Tara. I am a peer support specialist. I specialize in providing support to people in recovery from mental health and substance use conditions. If that's you, you're in the right place. I'm so glad you're here. If that's not you, you're in the right place. I'm so glad you're here. It's so nice to have your company. Welcome in. If it's your first time here, I'm so glad that you found us. This is going to be a little bit different of a show. This is the first time you'll see the Powered by StreamYard icon in the corner here. This is the first time I've ever used this platform. So I'm glad. Wait, is my sound off? Can y'all hear me right now? Let me know if you can hear me or not, because if the sound's off, that's no bueno. Ben, did you have the sound off or is my sound off? Can somebody give me a confirmation on that? I'm just going to keep rolling. No, mine. Okay. Ben says his sound was all right. Ben, you rattled my cage a little bit there. My sound is good. Okay. Right on. Right on. So first of all, I just want to say this is going to be a little bit different of a show. It's not going to be very different from anything you've ever seen before in your life, but it's going to be different from what you've seen here on this channel, because I have never had people on this channel before as guests. And now that I have a strong enough signal to be able to use streaming software, I wanted to give this a shot and see how it goes. So if you would like to come on as a guest, if you've got questions, if you need support, if you just want to chat it up and help me test out this software, I want to, whoops, that is not the link that I wanted to share. I've got to get this link for you. I have a few links that I'll probably share this evening. Anne-Marie Bliss in the house. Scotland said you can hear me. Anne-Marie, it is so nice to see you. I've been wondering about you, girlfriend. Anne-Marie says, I'm here, kinda. I'm listening anyway while I'm driving. Okay, well, stay safe, Anne-Marie. It is nice to see you. I'm curious as to what's going on in your life. I'm curious about if you moved yet. I'm curious about what's going on in your fam, if you did care to share. If you want to come on the show, this goes for anybody. I'm not just talking to Anne-Marie here, although I'm so happy that you're here, Anne-Marie. I'm sure that you're not going to want to come on as a guest, Anne-Marie, while you're driving. But maybe Scott, you might want to come on. Yeah, guesty, click the link, Scott, if you want to come on. Anybody is welcome to come on. If nobody comes on, then it's just going to be a normal Tara Smiling show, and that's okay with me too. Okay. Oh, I wanted to say, just checking my notes here. Okay, I wanted to say, let's see while I put this up. I am not a medical health professional. Nothing you see on this channel is medical health advice. And I love that I can put this banner up. I will be putting it up a few more times. Hopefully I remember to do it. Also, I wanted to say, if you need immediate support, this is not the place, and I want you to get support. Dial 988. Oh, Scott's on deck. If it's an emergency, dial 911, okay? Scott, I'm going to pull you up in just a second, okay? Right after I say huge shout out to all the channel sponsors. This channel is funded solely by your contributions, and I want to thank you all so much. If you want to donate to the channel, you can see the links in the description to do that. I was going to put the sponsors' names in the banner, but then I was like, well, I didn't ask their permission. I don't know how y'all feel about that. So I'll be reaching out to you to, again, thank you for your contribution and to ask if you want me to shout you out in the banner on the bottom of the page. So without further ado, let's get Scott up here. Scott, are you ready to come up? Okay. Hey, okay, I'm gonna bring him up. Scott Lynn in the house. Hey, Scott, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Dude, I'm chilling, man. I'm just trying to find my sea legs, I guess you could call it, on this whole StreamYard thing. It's nice to have you on.
Thanks. It's happy to be here.
Yeah, right on. Go ahead.
Don't mind my life happening.
Life happens. Life happens. You know, I got life happening too. But what's going on with you? What led you to click that link?
I'm struggling with things out of my control with waiting for my expungement. The potential employer keeps like asking me about it, and I like told them everything up front. It's just like the circumstances were out of my control, so I'm just like frustrated.
So what do you got that's keeping you busy in the in-between moments?
Honestly, just life. I like piled on a bunch of side work to make extra money before starting the new job, because we got to buy a van. And so I did all that thinking I wouldn't have to work construction anymore. So I kind of pushed myself beyond where I normally would like to be. And then I still have some side work still to do, but then I did all that and now I'm just beat up. But then also my new job didn't start, which is not as much hard labor. So I kind of spent myself, and now it's not changing. So
it sounds like you're spread pretty thin right now.
Can I be honest? Is I do that all the time. I was listening to this video about types of people, a quiet person in a room full of people may feel one thing, or someone that's quiet or someone that's always helping. It's I don't know. It's I have a hard time. There's this experience that I have that's a euphoric sense of gratuity that I get. But it only happens sometimes when I do service. And not all the time. And it's usually when it's impactful or somebody's going through something, and they least expect it. And it's just I walk away from it. And then sometimes I'll I don't know, call my grandma and be I'm grateful for you, and come home and just be incredibly grateful for everything that I have. But then I feel I chase it kind of. And so I just do offer so much of myself that I'm exhausted all the time.
Yeah, it sounds like something I'm experiencing actually in the present moment, where I'm giving too much away and not putting into my self-care. I'm not taking care of myself as much as I have in the past, and it makes it less what's the word I'm looking for here? It makes it less enjoyable to hear that, oh, I really helped someone. It's almost like it just goes right over my head, and it doesn't feel as good because I haven't poured into myself. Is that kind of what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, 100%. And the other thing is I'm not good at pouring into myself anyways.
So what are some ways that Scott Lynn could pour into himself?
That's a good question. It's I have opportunities. I just have I don't know. my guilt scale is profound. It's like on Thursdays, I'm supposed to go play Magic with my friends. But then it's like I do side work. And then like Kayla cleans my grandma's house on Mondays. And then she works on the weekends. And so I'm always just like, we don't get to spend a lot of time together. So I feel like I shouldn't do something for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's just like I always find an excuse. And I think it's probably something deep rooted that I need to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a conversation. My sister's going through divorce. And we shared my mom who died from alcoholism and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always like had a conversation with my brother who's in recovery about the codependency that was just like taught to us by my mom, and that like two of our siblings hadn't experienced it because they were just in monogamous relationships long term, and until things got rocky they didn't realize like the impact my mom had on them. And I like reflect on things one at a time mostly because I don't like to look at things at a whole, but like as it happened I was thinking about when I got sober. I'm like, oh, I changed for the better. And then I stopped looking for okay I stopped looking for like bad habits that I may have developed in my recovery journey. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that like my value system is strict, and although it was helpful in like achieving recovery, I think that by exercising it long term so strictly may have created other habits that aren't so good.
Well, you have some deep insight there, and I just want to remind you that that's a strength. Your insight, the fact that you're incredibly aware of what's going on, is a strength. Hi.
You say hi.
Hi.
What's up? It looks like it tastes pretty good. What's that taste like?
Yeah, Nikki. To keep toys out of your mouth, huh?
Yeah. So I want to say hi real quick to Tree Hugging Buddhist. Tree Hugging Buddhist says listening, lurking. And then Ben, Mr. Bacon Man Ben, says, I don't know how you people do that. You people meaning us peer support specialists. He says, I have to back off from time to time with people, and I'm not into peer support. So props to you, Scott, for doing the work. It takes a special kind of person, and something that we learned in peer support training is, and I'm sure y'all learned this too, is that the leading causes of burnout. Can you tell me what they are, the top two reasons for burnout in peer support?
Lack of self-care and lack of balance.
Okay. So I could see how the lack of balance would tie into what we learned the second thing is. So for all of you that don't know, Scott and I are in different states. So we had different trainings. I'm sure your test experience was different than mine. We can get to that later. If y'all haven't seen my last video yet, then you have no idea what I'm talking about. But we learned here in California that the top two reasons for burnout are lack of self-care. So that one's the same as what you said, and trying to fix people. So trying to fix people, I could see how that would tie into lack of boundaries or balance, I think is what you said, lack of balance. Because if you are trying to fix people, then you're going to come off balance pretty darn quick.
Yeah, that sounds more correct than what I said. Yeah, like how much did they focus on boundaries for you?
Well, I only got to take half the test. So Boundaries, I would say indirectly, there were a few questions that might have been around boundaries that I saw, but I did sign a NDA. Now that I'm thinking about it, I can't go into too much detail about what I saw or didn't see on the test now in retrospect. Did you have to sign an NDA on your test?
No, that's crazy.
Yeah, it said that I wouldn't divulge any of the information that I saw on that test. So I guess what I can say is that maybe indirectly they tested for boundaries, but I can't say exactly why it is that I think that.
Did it feel like if you didn't have training, how do you feel like you would have been doing on it?
You know what? I thought some of the questions were worded kind of tricky, to be honest. And I think because we went over that in training, that you have to really understand what the question is asking and also understand the peer support principle that the question is asking about to be able to pick the right answer.
Mm.
I don't know. It's a good question that you ask. I might have done the same as prior to training, but I was able to answer questions with more confidence, I think. And I didn't have an understanding about what peer support work actually was. Like how is peer support work different from therapy and counseling? And I think in that respect, I might have chosen the wrong answers had I not had the training, because I might have been thinking more like uh, that a peer support specialist was supposed to be like a counselor or an advisor.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I felt like, if I'm to be honest with you, I was like kind of offended at the difficulty of the test. Like, I don't think like obviously like the threshold for completion should be miserable, but also I think you want to hold it.
No, I want.
Um,
She wants to hold it and to not hold. She
yeah,
yeah. She wants to hold it and she wants to not hold it. It sounds like.
yeah, 100%. But it was just like I think it should be a little more difficult. I don't know. It's just
Mm. Mm. Well, I didn't make it through the whole thing, as you know. And if you haven't seen my last video, you definitely want to go check that out, because it's probably confusing to you when I say I didn't make it through the whole thing. But I'm not going to take up y'all's time going into that now, because you can go back and watch the video. But yeah, I'm still waiting to hear back on that. I called and followed up today, but they didn't have an answer for me. They're reviewing my case. They have to review the video and the audio and all of that. And then I can expect an email, which I did get an email that said I did not pass the test, but it wasn't from the people who had reference to my case. Like there was no case number or anything like that in it. So I might need to follow up again and just make sure that wasn't the email that I should have been expecting. But it sounded like it could take a while for them to get to it. Anne-Marie Bliss says, oh, I had 5 kids. It's so hard when kids are younger to find time for yourself. So this is a comment for you, Scott, from Miss Anne-Marie. To spend time on yourself, it always seems like you have to steal time from other things. Does that resonate?
yeah, that's super accurate. Yeah, and I'd say like my experience, like I had 2 completely different experiences, right? It's like with my mom, she was sick all the time. She didn't work. She would like keep me home from school because she was lonely, right? And then like when she passed away, my dad just like worked nonstop. So it's like I have these like 2 experiences where like one, it's try to operate in a way where I'm not having codependent tendencies that I'm passing on, and then like also it's like we're mostly a 1 income household and I do my best to support my family, but I don't want to be gone all the time either. And it's like I have this thing inside me. And I think when we talked about just like doing a truthful and honest, inventory, but the thing I'm struggling with is I'm like, I know if I do an inventory that I have to make commitments to change the things that aren't going well. And I just like don't know if I have the energy with like other stuff going on right now to like do that. And I just like, I can be so incredibly hard on myself, but it's like I could do that forever and never do it. So I have to find a balance. I feel like I struggle with that a lot, where I have these like two things inside of me and I just use them both as an excuse to never do it.
So I have something exciting to share that it'll make sense here in a second as to why I'm sharing this. It has been months since I've done yoga. And I was watching the Lifeboat this morning. Shout out to the Lifeboat. Shout out to Captain Calhoun. And he was talking about doing some yoga. And I was like, I have been wanting to get back to yoga for so long. And I actually did it today. And you know what? It felt hard. I fell a bunch of times. It didn't feel the same as it used to, but it felt good nonetheless. And I think the thing that felt the most good about it was that I showed up and I did it.
Good for you. Yeah.
Thank you.
I've been interested in yoga too.
So I wasn't saying, I want to make this clear. I wasn't sharing that because I'm like, everybody needs to do yoga. I don't think that, but the point, the parallel that I see between my stretching, call it, tomato, call it what you want, call it yoga, call it stretching, whatever. I see a parallel between all the things that you want to do, in particular, the inventory that you brought up, because I've heard you talk about this before. And it would be a really great place for you to detail every single thing, that's running jumbled around in your head. And I say that not because I think it would be a good fit for you. Obviously, I'm not a mental health professional. This is not mental health advice. But as a peer support specialist from one peer to another, you have mentioned in the past that putting together a new and improved inventory could be something that could be potentially very helpful to you.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And yeah, and the yoga thing, I suppose, I should also divulge a little more. Is that like I've been having some orthopedic issues, and just like don't think I can commit to physical therapy, and like I could really work on strengthening other parts of my body, I guess.
Absolutely, for sure. It was not a waste of time. I want to say what's up. Shout out to Schoolboy Kai, Luke in the house, Artem. Gentlemen, welcome in. It's so nice to have you here. Yeah, if you notice, we've got a little bit different of a situation happening. I opened up the floor to have people come in. So if you want to come up tonight and say hello, if you've got something that you need some support with, if you just want to ask a question, like if you've got a question for me, I might have an answer. I'm going to post the link for y'all. It looks like we might have lost Scott. So we'll see if he comes back here. I'm going to post this link. If anybody else wants to come up, and Tony B, No Talk Tony, what a creative name you have. Hey, Tony, welcome in. Nice to see you here. If you're interested in coming up and partaking in this conversation, or if you've got a completely unrelated question, it does look like we lost Scott. I'll keep an eye out for him here. In the meantime, Luke says, I keep forgetting I can click on comments. Oh, first Luke said, I'm going to put Artem's hi guys, says Artem. Schoolboy Kai said, what's good? Luke says, look upgraded, Tara. Well, thank you. I had to. Oh, is Scott coming back? I didn't push a button and it made it look like, oh, I see what happened. Scott, I thought we lost you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Scott? I don't think Scott can hear us. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's not working.
You can't hear anything?
Okay.
Whoops. Say it again, Scott. I don't know what happened. I don't know. Bear with us, folks. We're trying to figure out what the heck's going on here. Luke says, love that. Been stretching and really been into it since I've been able to sit cross-legged. I love lotus pose. It's one of my personal favorites. Really, really good for the knees, good for the thighs. It's just good all around. Tony B in the house says, what's up? Y'all, if I didn't make it clear, please come up and talk to me. I am testing out StreamYard tonight, and it would be awesome to have you on if you've got something to say, if you've got a question to ask. If you don't want to come up and, you know, put yourself in the public limelight, I know Discord can be a way more comfortable place for it. Anne Marie says, I think the meanest thing we can do to ourselves is have an all or nothing rule for us. Just pick one to begin with. Right, the all or nothing thing can be so polarizing that it can do damage. I can think of an example that reigns true to my life. And Anne-Marie, if you've got an example, please do feel free to share. If anybody else has one. The only example I can come up with is with respect to relationships. It's like, well, yeah, it's kind of all or nothing. But I think what you're saying is, okay, let me talk about stretching. Like, for me, a 90-minute class is what I really, like a 90-minute session is what I really enjoy doing. I've done it so many times before. And so in my mind, a stretching session needs to be a full-blown 90-minute Bikram series. But today I just did a 60-minute one, and that was fine. I could have done a 30-minute one, and that would have been fine too. I think what Anne-Marie is saying is that the polarized black and white, either all in or all out, can be damaging. Artem says, I'm already multitasking, trying to make food and eat while watching, so I'm not going to be trying to join you on stream today, but I love the idea. Right on, Artem. Well, it will be here. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. So anytime you want to come on and have some face-to-face on a Monday night, if you've got a question, if you want to make a point, I like the idea of having you up here. I will be having guests on as well, so keep an eye out for that. I don't know yet, though. I don't want to promise that I'm going to have a guest on like next week. That's not what I'm saying. Scott, I got to get Eleanor to bed. Sorry. Scott, I hope that y'all have a good night. Thank you for coming on and talking. And seriously, my offer that you know, we've talked about your inventory before, and I just want you to know, like, no pressure at all, but I'm definitely here for you. This platform is here for you if you ever want some support in that. Now I have a good platform to have you on as a guest. What do y'all think about this this streaming business? Is it more legit now, or did you like the other YouTube what do you call it? The format, the YouTube format better? Let me know what you think. Oh, okay. So I never even said this before, and I can't believe I didn't say it. I am open for business, folks. I'm happy to report that I am currently booking peer support sessions. So if you saw my last video, you know that I have not yet passed my peer support Medi-Cal exam, but I am a certified peer support specialist. I have passed the California exams to provide support. I just cannot bill Medi-Cal as of yet, which is a holdup. Spoiler alert, so you don't think I failed the test because I just don't know the material. I'm pretty sure I know the material, although I can't prove it. What happened was, oh, we've got a guest in the house. All right, all right. So let me bring up Miss Tony. Hi.
Hi, Tara.
How are
Hi,
you?
I'm good. Sorry, I had to get grandson settled in so that I could come on because one, he's got the hiccups. He needed a bottle. So,
Oh my goodness, that seems like it needs immediate attention.
yeah, we
Yeah.
tried bouncing, but that didn't work. So,
Mm.
but yeah, Scott was talking about, I can't remember the word used. Sorry, fibrobrain. Um,
Mm.
Inventorying things.
Yes.
You can do that and like decide kind of like what's first, what's second, what's third. But sometimes that's not possible, especially when you're raising children. Okay.
Mm.
Not only do my husband, myself, and my boyfriend, between the three of us, there's 6 kids that we've raised, plus all the extras that have come through the home that have lived with us that we've taken in because they had no other place to go. So, with that being said, sometimes there's one thing that I want to make a priority, but I can't do that because something else overrides that to where I have to make, you know, so you have to be flexible and be able to kind of like go with the flow thing where, okay, I can't do this. Like right now, I help take care of my grandson while the kids work. So that means my day, I might want to do the dishes, but the baby decides he's going to stay up all day or most of the day. Well, doing dishes isn't an option for me at that point. So then I ask somebody else to do it for me so that they do get done. And then I don't feel quite as bad because the
Mm.
dishes are done, which needed to be done, right? And I was still able to do what I needed to focus on in that moment, which was my grandson. And so then, it's just you can compartmentalize, but you have to be ready to be flexible with that compartmentalizing of things.
Okay, I hope Scott's hearing this because this would be really good for him. He may or may not be listening. Sometimes he listens in the background.
Hmm.
Um, I really appreciate you coming on to share your experience, Tony, because I personally do not have children of my
Hmm.
own, which means I do not have grandchildren either.
Hmm.
I've not experienced the whole thing. So when people start talking about children, all I can do is relate to my own experience of what I have been through.
Right.
The children piece, though, that is something I'm really glad that you decided to come on and talk about.
Well, that's my pleasure because, like you said, you don't have children. So it's kind of hard to relate to people that do have children and have
Mm-hmm.
raised them. And especially when you take in extra children that aren't yours. Granted, they were teenagers, but still, you're taking on that extra responsibility of them being in your home and setting the rules and, setting limits to what they are and aren't allowed to do. And just kind of finish giving them the last little bits and pieces that they need to become successful in life. You know,
Mm.
um, Now we're getting to the point where we're trying to just push the last 2 out.
Mm.
Well, it's actually 4 because the mom of my son's son lives with us as well. And then Dustin's son, who's the second youngest, he has a girlfriend and she comes and she doesn't live with us, but she stays with us off and on and she'll spend the day with us and then go back home because of the whole
Mm.
situation in her home. So, but they already have plans on moving out. So I'm okay with that. It's the other 2 that I just like sometimes struggle with
Oh
because
my
it's like,
goodness.
okay, guys, you need to figure out what you're doing, and do what you need to do. That's part of the problem. They don't prioritize.
Mm.
And so sometimes getting your adult children, which even at 21, people say, well, they're an adult. Physically, yes. Mentally, no. They still have that I want to do what I want to do type mentality. And they haven't quite reached that. Wait, I have other responsibilities that have to come first. And it's that process of learning and teaching and helping them realize, okay, wait, you need to stop and think about what's more important right now. So yeah, children are a lot of fun, but they can also be really, really stressful.
And speaking of people who know this, we've got Cosmic Christie in the house. Heather, Zelda just rolled in. Hey, ladies, it's nice to have you here. Welcome in.
Welcome, welcome.
Yeah, we've got Tony schooling us about schooling us about education. How redundant is that? We've got Tony in the house schooling us about multitasking when having children, which is something that I know little about. I have friends who have children, but it's not the same. You know, I realize it's not the same.
And as we're speaking about multitasking and learning, the little one really needs to take a nap. Yeah. What?
Well, let's see. We've got
okay.
Scott. While you
Give
do
me
it,
I can talk. I can still talk, but
I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can. So Scott says, I struggle with punishing myself when not getting more done. Kay and I, Kay is his fiance.
Okay.
I believe. He says
that is hard.
Mm-hmm.
That is really hard because you think that you need to do certain things, that you have to get this stuff done, but you also have to give yourself grace. And that's the hard part. Right there with Scott. It's hard to give yourself that grace, saying, okay, I had all this other stuff come up, so I wasn't able to get to this one thing that I wanted to do today. Give yourself grace. Look at the stuff that you did get accomplished. Don't look at the stuff that you didn't get accomplished. One of the things that I do, instead of having a to-do list, I have a to-done list.
Things that you completed already?
Things that I did during the day that I completed. And then when I look at my to-done list, like I've had to-done lists that there's like 15, 20 things on it that I did. Now, maybe I didn't get to the one thing I really wanted to do, but you know what? I got all this accomplished. And then it makes you feel better because you're looking at it and you're going, okay, here's the to-do, here's the to-done. Because when you're doing things, and this is the other thing, when you're doing things, like you'll be in the middle of doing something and then you'll see something else that kind of connects to the thing you're doing. So you'll go from the thing you're doing to that other thing, forgetting that there was something else that you were going to do as well. But that's okay because you still got that other thing done. Does that make sense?
Okay, it makes total sense. I like that strategy. I've never thought to document the things that I did already, but that's really smart. So can I ask you a question, Tony?
Sure.
About what Scott just shared?
Mm-hmm.
So Scott wants to know about how to spend time with his significant other. He says that they just never have time together. So it's always 2 versus 1.
That is hard. It's really hard sometimes spending time with your significant other, but it's not the amount of time, it's the quality of the time you spend together. So like if you have 5 minutes to have that short 5-minute I love you conversation, value that 5 minutes that you got to spend together. Value the fact that you got that morning kiss without any interruption. You know, value the 5 minutes of peace of the two of you just being able to sit there and maybe listen to some music, or you know, you grab her in the kitchen and dance her around while something's cooking on the stove. It's those little things that can become the big things. And when you have little ones, it's a lot harder to find those moments. But when you do have that moment, grab hold of it. If you have something else that you want to do, but you have that moment to be with that person, your person, take that moment. Don't worry about the thing you might want to do. Take that moment with your person, because then you're getting that time that you desire and that you need. But also learn what each other's love languages are, because there's like 5 or 6 different love languages. Touch, of affirmation, gifting, just
Uh,
listening.
isn't one of them is acts of service?
Yes, acts of service.
Yeah.
You know, so know what your partner's love language is,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can do that for them. Now,
Mm-hmm.
yours might be different from theirs, but that's okay.
Right.
That's okay. You know, I'm a person who I like to hear I love yous. And I'm
Me
also,
too. I like to hear
I'm,
I love you too.
and I love you, Tara.
I love you, Tony.
And I'm also a touchy-feely. I like hugging. I like kissing. I like to
Mm.
snuggle. Although I can only snuggle for short times because then I get too hot. And it's like, especially when my two men are both furnaces and they make me overheat, and not in a good way, just sitting there. So, but yeah, it's learning what each other's love languages are and being able to do that, and grabbing those 2 minutes or those 5 minutes or those 10 minutes, you know, and also make sure that once a week, if you can do it, have a date night where it's just the two of you, whether you stay in and the children go someplace else, or you have somebody come in and stay with the children and you go out for the evening. And it doesn't even have to, or an afternoon, even like go on a picnic or something that doesn't cost you anything except packing your picnic lunch, having a bottle of wine, whatever it is that you like to do.
I love free things to do.
Yes.
That's speaking my love language right there.
Yeah. Doing the free things, you know. I mean, I love it when my guys are like outside, like right now they're building a brick wall or a brick barrier around my tree out front. And to me, that is like one of the biggest ways they can show how much they love me, because I want my yard to look nice.
Mm.
You know, I try to have flowers. I have bird feeders everywhere. I'm working on my garden out back. I have my chickens out back. But they've made all this possible for me. So that's that service, you know, that's how they show that they love me. That's their way of doing it, you know, whereas mine is more the touchy-feely, giving those affirmations, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my Dustin who came up with the idea of the to-done list, because he saw me getting really stressed out and feeling like I wasn't getting things done in the day. So he was like, do a to-done list. I'm like, well, that makes sense. So I did. I started doing my to-done list. And before I knew it, I'd have 10 to 20 items done on my list. Sometimes it would be as small as take my medicine, make my bed, make dinner for everybody. You know, just things that you don't think need to go on a to-done list. I did it. Make coffee and take my first early morning meds. You
Ooh,
know?
I get to put coffee on there. Ooh, that's an automatic
Yes.
score for me. Okay.
Yes, on your to-do list, make coffee. If you drink coffee every day, then you have to make the coffee, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And then
Well,
I have to clean the coffee pot as well. Is that
that
included?
counts.
Is that a separate thing or is that included?
No, if you clean your coffee pot
Yeah.
after you've had your coffee,
Yeah.
that's separate. So clean my coffee pot. Yeah.
All right. That's 2 things on my to-done list. Thank you so
Yes.
much, Tony.
You're welcome. And Zelda Z, I'm glad you like the idea of the to-do list. It has made a really big difference for me. It makes me feel like I'm actually accomplishing things in my day, especially now that I have the grandbaby. And he's getting very vocal and likes to give his input, as you can tell.
Yes.
I
understand. I get it. I'm with you on that one. That's something I understand.
And yes, Anne Marie, we are the absolute worst to ourselves, because we always try to pick what's the worst thing about ourselves. So again, this is where you have to go into, okay, instead of looking at the worst in myself, what is one of the best things in myself? What do I do really, really well? And I guarantee you there's something you do really, really well. I like to write. I love writing. Now, I don't journal all the time, which I should be doing. So that's not my well thing, but I write. I write stories. I'm going to be publishing a children's book that I'm working with Maya from Norway. She's doing my illustrations for my children's book.
Oh,
and it's
awesome.
about
Very cool.
living up in the far north, up in up past the Arctic Circle, and she
Mm.
lives up past the Arctic Circle. And so she knows when I put the words on the paper, she can look at those words and know exactly what I'm talking about, and she can paint the picture. So she's doing the illustrations. I've written the book. We're going to get it published, hopefully by August at the latest. But that's my thing. I write. I love to write. I'm good at it.
Well, it's very creative of you. That, and you were just talking about how seeing the positive things in ourselves is a really healthy and constructive thing to do. And I echo that and say finding strengths is all, it's all the same thing as what you were just talking about. And your creativity is a strength. I think that's awesome that you're writing a children's book. That's so cool.
Actually, it's going to be a series of about 10 of them.
Wow.
That's my goal. Now, don't hold me to it. That's my goal. I get this first one out first and see how it does. But
yeah,
the response I'm getting is phenomenal. And I even read it to my grandson a couple of times, and he lays there and he just smiles and giggles the whole time I'm reading him the book. So I say it's a go with kids. And he's only 3 months old, so.
Right on. And what Anne Marie said at the end of this comment, my counselor told me once, if I wouldn't say it to my children, I can't say it to myself. That is so profound.
Yeah, that is really good. Because I mean, we don't want to put our children down. We try to build our children up, let them know that there's things that they can do. But
Scott says, I love languages, get the kids to bed alive.
I totally understand that sentiment. I mean, it's hard sometimes, but it does get better. And then sometimes it gets worse, and then it gets better. And, it's like anything in life. There's ups and downs to it, but it's very rewarding because in the end, you end up with grandchildren and hopefully eventually great grandchildren. So.
Zelda says, I have a friend who made a to-done list and gave it to her boss, and he gave her a huge raise.
There you go.
Wow, I love this idea.
Yeah, I do too. It works really well. And it does make you feel accomplished at the end of the day. It really does. But just, again, Scott, take those few minutes that you have whenever they show themselves for you and your other half to be able to grab and just, let each other know how much you love each other and have that 2-minute I love you conversation, however that might be for you.
That's very, I think it's very good advice. I'm personally not trained to give mental health advice, but that's me. You're you, and you can say it. You can say whatever you want.
Well, I've been doing therapy for I don't know how many years. I've lost track because I have mental health issues.
Like receiving it? Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, receiving it.
Yeah.
I have a lot of mental health issues. I've been in therapy for 20 plus years now.
Oh, wow.
I don't go regularly anymore because I don't need to, because I have all the tools. I know what I need to do. It's just sometimes putting those tools into practice. And that's where it can get hard sometimes.
Yeah.
Is putting those tools into practice and saying, okay, I have this tool. I'm having this issue. I need to use this tool.
Yeah.
Again, we self-doubt ourselves and think, is this really going to work or
it's
whatever.
like a muscle too. If we don't exercise the muscles and use them, then they atrophy. And so whatever we learn in therapy, if we're not practicing it, like for me, a big thing is boundaries. And so if I'm not communicating boundaries, setting them, then I'm not going to ever get better at it if I don't practice.
Yes. And that's my problem right now, is setting boundaries and sticking to my boundaries, because I tend to, I'm very soft-hearted. I'm the one that I wear my heart on my sleeve kind of thing.
Aww.
And so I see somebody struggling, or I see that, they're tired. So I'll say, okay, well, I'll take the baby, even though I shouldn't be, because they need to, learn how to do it themselves, right? You're tired. Okay, the baby's up. Okay, take care of the baby. You'll just have to sleep later. That's what I did. when I was raising all you guys. So now you need to learn it, but I'm the one that goes, okay, just give me the baby, go lay down,
It, and it sounds like this is kind of what Scott's talking about is boundaries, but it's boundaries with himself. He said hard self-talk is really hard. It's weird. It's like I don't tell myself stuff. I just look at the house and my bank account and just think I'm capable of a remedy.
So remedies come with communication. This is where it's really essential to talk with your partner and have those conversations about, okay, this is where we're sitting. This is how I'm feeling. But don't place it on them. Say, this is my feelings. This is how I feel about this situation or that situation. It shows that you're not blaming them, but you're taking ownership of your own feelings of whatever it is that you're feeling. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think ownership of emotions is exactly the place that I find myself in right now. It's like a dead end road for me to blame other people. Even if someone else did something to me, it's a dead end road for me to blame them for it or to blame them for my emotions. That's my responsibility to deal with my emotions. So I totally get what you're putting down. And I want to say hello to Tampa B Man. We got Tampa B Man in the house. Welcome in.
Barb, so good to see you.
So nice to see you. Welcome in. So I got really behind in the comments, but I did want to address what Cosmic Christy said. She said, I'm completely disorganized as a person and mother. I still managed to raise two mostly decent people who are independent, so much so that by end of May, I'll have an empty nest, which is exactly
that's what I want.
That's what you were just talking about.
Yeah.
Cosmic, how are you? How do you think you're going to deal with the empty nest? Because I hear people experience it differently. My mom actually just became recently an empty nester. My brother moved out of the house for the first time. I thought she was going to be, and hi, Mom, if you're watching this on replay, by the way, hi. I forgot to say to any guests that come on, my mom wanted me to say, keep it clean for the children and for the moms, the conservative moms. But I thought that my mom was going to take it pretty rough, but she handled it like it was nothing.
So because we've had so many children in our home, we are so ready to be empty nesters. It's like,
okay.
Because I know that wherever my children go, I can go visit them. I have two of my daughters live about 2.5 hours away, and I drive there once or twice a month to go visit with them. And I stay with the one daughter and just go over to the house of the other daughter. I have another son that lives here in town. We have a daughter that lives in Indiana, Fort Wayne. So that's a little bit of a drive. So we don't get to see her. We don't go see her very often, but she comes about once a year to come visit us. So that works because not only does her dad live here, who I'm married to, but her mom and her other grandma and my husband's mom and dad and all that. So, she wants to come and visit her family here. So that's good. And once the ones that live here move out, I can always go visit them. They're all staying in town, so I can go visit them. And even if they move further away, I can still go visit them. But you know what? My house will be quiet and peaceful, and that's what I'm looking for.
See, it's so quiet at my house. I'll take some of your noise. I'd happily take some of your noise. What else do we have here? We've got Ben, Mr. Bacon Man Ben, as I endearingly call him. Ben says, aha, yeah, I'm back. Like, well, someone who left and came back. I didn't even realize you left, Ben. It's nice to have you back. Ben doesn't remember where he was going with that, but that's okay. I'm glad you're here, Ben, if indeed you are still here. Let's see what else. Okay. Christy says, I think my two neurodivergencies worked together to make my style of parenting work. My autism kept my ADHD in line by making parenting my special interest. I was all in.
Yeah, she was all in her parenting.
Oh, I thought that was a continuation. I was all in. Okay, got it. I'm glad you understood that because I was looking for part 2.
That's the joys of being a writer.
So, Christy, I think it's so interesting when you talk about being neurodivergent. It's sometimes I wonder if I am, but I think a lot of women who have ADHD wonder if they are. I don't know if you can relate to this or not, Tony, but I sometimes I wonder, I'm like, am I neurodivergent? Because I meet all this criteria, but I've never been diagnosed with anything, and I'm certainly not going to seek out a diagnosis at all. What's your experience been with that?
So, I have been diagnosed with bipolar with depressive episodes. I have anxiety. I have panic attacks. I have pseudo seizures. I have the personality disorder. So you put the bipolar with the personality disorder, and that can make for a really fun mix. Yeah. Because with my personality disorder, part of it is that whoever I'm around, I tend to take on that kind of personality. And I have to remind myself, no, that's not who I am. I am who I am, and I need to present myself the way I am supposed to present myself. The bipolar gets me when I don't take my medication, and I've heard others say that they don't want to be on medication. That's awesome. Not having to be on medication is a really awesome thing. But I have learned through trial and error, being on it, being off it, being on it, that not being on my medication causes problems for me and those I love, because I tend to lose a lot of control. I get that I can do anything and I can do everything and I am a goddess type attitude, you know? Yes, Barb, you hear a baby. It's my 3-month-old grandson. But so, you put that with the personality disorder, and yeah, I can be pretty hard to handle sometimes.
Well, my diagnoses are an adjustment disorder with anxious and depressed moods, which is basically like major depressive disorder, but with an anxiety piece to it. I have PTSD and ADHD.
I have the PTSD as well.
Yeah. I feel that with treatment and having the regular therapy, I feel like I'm getting closer to probably not meeting some of that criteria. Like, I'd be interested to hear what my therapist said about like an updated diagnosis.
Well, as long as you will always have ADHD and PTSD. You'll always have it. It'll always be there. But being able to manage it, that's where learning about your tools that work for you, and having your tool belt and going, okay, today I need to make sure I journal, and I might have to journal more in one day than I do another day. Are we having fun? Everybody can hear you.
We can hear you. So Scott says, I am soft-hearted as well. I remedied the boundary struggle by setting firm boundaries. Now I set too firm of boundaries.
And that's where you have to be flexible. I saw that when you brought that up. That's where you have to be flexible. You have to realize that, okay, I have this boundary, but for what reason might I bend a little bit on this boundary? I'm not saying totally throw the boundary out the window, but I'm saying, can you bend a little bit? Can you give a little bit on that boundary? Because it could be something as simple as, okay, you don't get dessert before dinner, but they had a really, really good day, so you decide to have ice cream before dinner. That's a boundary that it's not breaking the boundary. It's just an exception to the boundary.
I wanted to say, Luke, I'm liking the new format for sure. I love that comment. I'm glad you like it. I think you've got some fans, Tony.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. So Anne Marie says, here's an update from her. My husband and I are leaving the house to the kids and moving across the country. We'll be moving sometime between October and November. So it sounds
That
like
sounds exciting.
Yeah, it does sound exciting. And I think this has been a long time coming. I think pretty much as long as Anne Marie and I have crossed planes of existence, she's been talking about moving, but now they actually have a date. That's exciting.
Yeah.
And then later on, Anne Marie says, I feel excited about the move for the most part. I immediately burst into tears when I think about not being 10 minutes from my dad.
That is hard.
Mm-hmm.
That is hard.
Yeah.
So when I met my ex-husband, I lived in Alaska. He was in the military. Our first daughter was born up there. Then we moved to Colorado away from my family. And then when he got out of the military, we moved to Illinois where his family's at. I did not see my family a lot once I moved away. It was really hard. But with technology today, you can actually do a lot of FaceTiming and stuff like that. That makes it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I talk to my mom often. We live in different states, and I call her pretty much every day.
Well, my mom and brother and sister-in-law moved from Alaska to Florida. My dad passed away 18 years ago. But yeah, so.
Well, I'm sorry for your loss.
No.
I'm also sorry for Kayla's loss, Scott, because I'm just seeing your comment here, and I think I would just cry if this happened. Scott, if you want me to send you some of my sourdough starter, I have done this for a friend before.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
And shipped it to, I have done this for a friend before and shipped it to my friend in New Orleans. So if you want me to ship you some sourdough starter, Scott, I would be happy to dehydrate some of Vicky and send it to you. So just let me know. You have my contact information. And if anybody here wants to get a hold of me, I'm going to go ahead and put my email in the chat real quick for you. I'm so sorry, Scott. And for anybody grieving.
Yeah. Because those sourdough starters take forever.
They take lots. And once you build a relationship with a sourdough starter, I know this is going to sound kind of silly to people, but it really is kind of like a pet. It's you get to know its feeding cycles. You get to know how often and how much. Yep. And I mean, I feed my starters 1-to-1 at this point, like Baker ratios. I used to eyeball it. Like with some past sourdough starters, but now I measure everything really precisely. And she loves it. She loves the detailed attention that she gets. And we're getting used to our new environment here, but I mean, she's super healthy and I can't imagine what I would do if I lost her. So yeah, Scott, I'm really sorry about that. Christy says, I was diagnosed as bipolar first. The meds never worked because I was never bipolar. ASD in women, autism spectrum disorder in women can present as other things, especially after child's birth. It's a pretty long, involved story, though. I would imagine.
I've heard her story.
Have you?
Mm-hmm.
I've heard bits and pieces of it, but not the whole thing.
Yeah. And that's tough when you're misdiagnosed at the beginning and you go through all that and you're on the wrong medication and it messes with you and everything. It's really, really hard. So my heart goes out to Christy for having to go through all that because it's never easy. It never is easy. Even when you have the right diagnosis, finding the right medication mix can take a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it took me a really long while to find the right medication. And I don't have a bipolar diagnosis, so it's not something that I struggle with. But for my depression and my ADHD, it has taken a while to get the correct diagnosis and the correct medication that works for me, because diagnoses aside, not every medication works for everybody.
No, But also remember that sometimes your medication might have to be flopped to something else, because after a while it tends to lose its potency and
Mhm.
its helpfulness. So then you're back on that hunt for the right medication again.
Right.
But when that happens, or if that happens, don't let it get you down. Just look at it as another one of those, um, look at it as another part of your journey
Yeah.
to being healthy.
Right.
So
Yeah. Christy wants to know, does the starter move by itself? That would be a cool horror friend. It does move by itself, Christy. It rises. Mine is rising about a time and a half, or not a time and a half, but like 150%. Mine rises. From the time I feed it, it rises because of the natural yeast by 150%, and then it falls again. So yeah, it does move by itself. And then someone else made a sourdough comment too.
sourdough is so good.
Oh, Scott, Heather made a sourdough comment. Scott says, I think Kayla has some dehydrated. How does that work? If she has some dehydrated, then y'all are in the clear. All she has to do, or you, all you have to do is I'd take half of it so that you have a backup. Put it in a plastic bag, just half of it. Grind it up so that it's just fine as you can make it in the plastic bag, and then weigh that, and then put equal parts of water and flour in a container. Let it bubble up probably about 24 to 48 hours. And then 24 hours later, feed it again, just like you normally would, 1-to-1. That's all you have to do. Does a sourdough starter burp? That's debatable. Okay, so I skipped some of the, normal. I felt like I had to lighten the mood there a little bit. Plus it was like rest in peace for that sourdough starter.
I know. That's just awful, because like you work so hard trying to build it up and everything, and then it's like, yeah.
I got really far behind in the comments, and I don't know if I'm ever. Carol's in the house. Hey, Carol, nice to see
Carol.
you. She says, got a few minutes before heading out to the barn. Wanted to say hi. Hi, Tara and Tony B. Hey, Carol. It's so nice to see you in here. I'm trying out this new format here, and I'm just getting weeded in the comments. I missed so many, and I usually like to get to all of them, but it's just been impossible with having people on and having a dialogue, which I've loved that portion of it. I just can't get to all the comments. So if I missed something pertinent or that needs immediate attention, please feel free to post your comment again. Luke says, resonating with the tools you speak of, Tony. I feel more comfortable moving forward knowing I've developed much better tools and many things have less influence. Well, that's nice to know, Luke, that you feel like you're getting something out of this and that you have more control over yourself, is what it sounds like to me. That's empowering. That's very empowering.
It is, especially when you know what tools work for you and what tools don't, because there's so many different ones out there. So
John Mendoza in the house. I didn't even see you sneak in, John. Nice to see you. Welcome in. Oh, Anne Marie, I missed a comment from Anne Marie. Says, on Friday, the moving company will do a walkthrough and then use AI to determine what size truck and how many movers we'll need. What? I'm looking forward to all the new things I'll see and do. Wow.
Didn't know they used AI to help movers.
I didn't either. That is something new and fancy that Anne Marie has taught us.
Yes, she has. Always learn something new every day.
Mr. Bacon Man Ben, it's all fun and games until Skynet becomes self-aware in 1996. Okay, so that didn't exactly work out. Wait a minute. Skynet was a company in 1996. Is that what you're putting down, Ben?
Looks like it.
That's what I'm like scratching my head about. Is this for real? Are you for real? Ben also said Nolans, right. Try to say it as close to one syllable as you can get. Right. I feel like because I'm not from there, I can't say it like Nolans. You know, I feel like I have to say it like it's spelled. How do you say Nolans, Tony?
Well, the way he's got it two different ways. It's Nalwins or Nawlins. So is it Nolans or Nolans?
Okay, good point. I didn't actually notice that. I think it's more, it's Nolans. It's not Nolans. It's definitely Nolans.
Yeah, so
okay, what
again,
else?
that's the writer in me. I like pick up on things like that. Like when I see people writing things, like when I get texts from the kids and stuff and things are misspelled or whatever, I'm just like,
But you're clearly a good writer and editor because you noticed that difference. I'm not a good editor. My mom is a good editor. Hey, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Scott says, I relate to that. I think when we were talking about all the different diagnoses, because I'm pretty, well, not that far behind compared to where I have been, but multiple personality, bipolar, ADD, PTSD, depression, oppositional defiant disorder. Turns out it was just grief and PTSD, but my dad and stepmom used their medical. Okay, there's a second part to this. There's
there's a second part to that
one. Connections to get me diagnosed and prescribed what they believed I had. That is dangerous.
That is very dangerous. That is really, really dangerous. And that's not right. And, you know, I tell my kids, you know, you show these signs, but I can't diagnose you because I'm not a doctor. You need to go see the doctor and talk to the doctor to find out exactly what's going on.
Right.
You know, my youngest son was diagnosed with ADHD by a doctor, and he was on medication for a while. I can tell you right now, he's got anger issues, but you know, for formal diagnoses, I can't do that for him, and I'm not going to tell a doctor what I think he has. The doctor needs to tell me what they think he has.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah, that's how I've received all my diagnoses, as well as just going in and telling them what I'm experiencing. I don't research things beforehand to try and fit a mold or anything like that. I let the professionals be professional.
Yeah. And that's the way it should be done. The professionals, you know, you should go in without any expectation of, especially when it comes to mental health. Now, when like a partial knee replacement, Dustin researched before I even went in for my partial knee replacement surgery. Dustin researched what they were going to do. So he knew in advance what was going to happen with my knee. But that's different because that's physical, you know? Whereas if it's a mental thing, when you're dealing with mental issues, if you research things, you can go like, oh, well, I'm like that, and I'm like that, and I'm like that, and I'm like that. Oh, I think I have this. Well, do you really? Because do you really feel that way? Or are you just saying that because that's what you read? So it's really important, if you're going to get some diagnoses on your mental health, not to read anything about it before you go in.
Totally.
Read about it after you go in.
After you get the diagnosis, right? Because I feel like I feel like you could create things that don't even exist as well. And like, in addition to just wasting energy and trying to put yourself in some sort of box, it's like our brains are so advanced that we could go and then create additional symptoms that we didn't have to begin with if we read about it.
Yeah.
Tampa B Man says, my hubby would love this sourdough starter stuff. He wasn't home to feed it for 2 days, and I guess it died. Well, I want to put this out there. I know it's not peer support related, but if anybody wants some of my sourdough starters so you don't have to go through the process, just reach out to me, send me an email, and I'd be happy to send some to you.
I might take some.
You want to take some sourdough starter? That's right on. Just send me an email so that I can.
I will.
Yeah, I'd be happy to send it. I don't think that your husband's sourdough starter would have died after 2 days. That's not long enough. Even if it was on the counter at room temperature, I don't think it would have died after 2 days. It might have looked inactive, but I feel like I could have an entire separate sourdough channel. I really do. I'm not going to get too into it here, too in the weeds with the sourdough, but email me and I would be happy to share until the cows come home. Seriously, I could talk for just as long about sourdough as I talk about peer support.
You have your favorite topics.
I do. And I could probably start a second channel with sourdough. So Ben wants to know any word on my retest thingy. So thank you for asking, Ben. I followed up today to try and get an answer from them, and the thing has been escalated. They marked it severe urgency. I was like, wait, is it severe? Like my alarm going off was really severe in terms of the implications? Or he's like, no, it's just in terms of the project manager's tasks that he or she has to carry out, it's severe urgency for them to look at my case. So they have to go back and look at the audio, the video. They will see, I'm hoping that they will hear first the alarm go off. They will see that I turned the alarm off, like a knee-jerk reaction, and hopefully they will allow me to have a retest and not charge me for it. But Ben, there's no new news on that. The new news is only that I followed up and they have no news except for it could take a while for them to make the decision. Or like, they'll probably make the decision quickly, but it could take them a while to actually get to reviewing the video and the audio.
Well, if they say it's a severe urgency, it sounds like they're going to do that as quickly as possible so that they can give you an answer as quickly as possible, because they don't want to take a lot of time having you hanging out there to dry.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you haven't seen my last video, I go into detail about what exactly happened. So if my summary there left you wondering what the heck actually happened, go back and watch my last video and you can see what happened. Scott says 5 months, no sublocade. Scott, man, I'm wondering if how can I ask this question in a way that exudes peer support? I think 5 months with no sublocade is a huge win. I want to know how you feel about it though, because I think that's great. I just am wondering what your thoughts are on it. Skynet was the villain in the Terminator. Okay, I think that's what Ben was talking about when he made that 1996 comment.
Because Terminator came out in 1996.
Got it. I'm feeling old when people don't catch Terminator references. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't catch all the references that people make, and I wish that I did. I can't be good at everything. You know, I try really hard, but I miss a lot. I apologize.
It's okay. We're not perfect, so it's all good. New ways to learn.
Yeah. Thanks, Tony.
You're welcome. Think of it as a learning opportunity.
I love learning opportunities.
That's all it is. It's a learning opportunity. Hey, I learned something new today. Skynet, aka Terminator, aka 1996.
Right. Okay. Hopefully I can remember that on the spot next time. I've seen Terminator, I think, when I was younger, but I don't know if I was allowed to watch it. I honestly can't really remember. I think I watched it with my dad, maybe. Okay. So
Arnold Schwarzenegger stars in it.
I know that. I know that much. Arnold. I know that. Okay, so Luke, I'm envisioning a world where money isn't dominant and everyone can be comfortable and not hopeless when money is tight. Well, that's a very nice thing to want for the world, Luke.
That is.
I think this is what Ben said before. Ben calls himself the typo king. So I think Ben just made a typo. Oh, Zelda, if you tell a doctor what you think you have, they may not look further. Good point.
Yep. That's why it's so important just to tell them what you're feeling, how you're feeling, what's going on in your head, and then let them take it from there.
Yeah. Yep. Seven Sons Steve in the house and John Mendoza. I don't know if you heard me say what's up to John Mendoza. Seventh Son Steve says, ahoy, I'm glad you made it in here, Seventh Son.
Nice to see you, Seventh.
John, the Terminator, RoboCop, and Universal Soldier were predicted programming. Well, this is getting pretty deep. Maybe this is why my mom didn't want me watching the Terminator.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she thought the Terminator would terminate her. How are you feeling, Tony?
I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
I'm just glad I was able to come on and, put some ideas out there that might help others, things that I've learned. I'll be 56 on Friday. Friday's my birthday.
Oh my goodness. Happy birthday early.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. But I'll be 56 and I've experienced a lot of different things. I mean, I grew up, I'm an ex-JW. You know what that is, right?
Oh, say that again.
I'm an ex-JW.
Oh, an ex-Jehovah's Witness. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I was raised that way, never believed that way, left that way. And my journey through life has had many ups and downs that I can share, how I survived, what I did. My ex was abusive emotionally and physically. So being able to share my thoughts and stuff is kind of nice. I don't get to do this very often, so.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Oh, by the way, I talk a lot.
That's okay. Me too. Me too. Heather says, happy birthday.
Thank you, Miss Heather.
I just wanted to tell you, Tony, if you're getting tired or you feel like you want to roll or, just go back to listening. I don't want you to feel like I'm holding you hostage here, but you're welcome to stay on. I'm happy to have you on. I just want you to feel free to be as you will.
Baby's settling in now, so I'm good.
It sounds like it. Yeah, you're like a professional.
6 kids.
Yeah. Goodness. Okay, here's something from Luke. I try not to leave interactions with lingering emotions. A stewing mind really gets in the way of my peace.
Very much so. Very much so. Nathan, my husband, always asks the kids, is it going to make a difference in 20 years? If it's not going to make a difference, if it doesn't affect your life, let it go. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that. Is it going to make a difference in 20 years? Is it going to make a difference in 5 years?
In 5 years. I've heard that one before. Or I like the long-term thing though, because my brain sometimes is like, well, 5 years, I don't know. Maybe I'll still think about it in 5 years, but 20 years is a way more buffered period of time to where, that $5 that I lost or found or whatever is probably not going to make a difference.
Yep. And that's the thing, I can't tell you how much stuff has been taken from us through the years. We loan it out and never comes back, whatever. And we look at it like, okay, guess we weren't meant to have that at this time. We let it go. It's not going to make a difference in 20 years because in 20 years it's going to be defunct anyway. So whatever, So you just, so my philosophy in life is to live, love, and let go. Live your life, love everybody, and let go of everything that doesn't make a bit of difference.
That's deep, Tony.
Thank you. And, I'm usually the one that's cheery all the time. I've got a smile on my face all the time. So if I ever come on here and I've got like a long face, something's on my mind.
I'll be asking you all kinds of questions if that ever happens.
Yeah, that's when you're gonna be like, okay, what's going on? What's happening? So, and like I said, I like to help people. It's always been my way of doing things. I like to explain things to the best of my ability. And I find that being actively talking to people, it helps keep my mind from going dead, basically. Because unfortunately, Alzheimer's runs really strong in my mother's line, in the females.
Yeah, my grandfather passed with Alzheimer's, and so did my aunt.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I'm also sorry that it runs in your family.
Thank you. I got a funny story for you on that one.
Okay, yes, let's hear a funny story.
So my daughter, she teases me, Ashley, she teases me all the time. She goes, Mom, you're crazy. I said, yeah, well, we knew that a long time ago. What's your point? She goes, well, when you get really bad, I'm sticking you in a home. I'm not taking care of you. I said, oh, no, I'm going to come live with you and let you deal with all my stuff that will be in reverse of the stuff you gave me. She goes, no, don't think so. You're going into a home.
Okay, that one did tickle my funny bone. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Joys of children.
Maybe one day I'll know the joy. Maybe one day I'll know the joy. John, I appreciate your comment. John says the content creators with low subscriber counts are the real ones. Real truth tellers don't have many subs. Well, thanks, John. I will take that as a compliment.
Definitely.
I don't mind staying small because you know what? The whole reason I started this channel up was because I have this vision to create my own peer support agency. And so I don't need a lot of prescribers. I almost said I don't need a lot of subscribers. In fact, I like the idea of staying relatively small, but I want to get my message out. So it's kind of back to that balance card where it's like I need to grow enough to get my message out to enough people, but I don't want to have so many people that I can't connect with the people who I'm interacting with.
Exactly. Exactly. What I was going to say to that is it's like anything in life. You have to have that balance. You can't, like, if one goes up higher and the other goes lower, then there's a lacking of something. So you've got to keep a nice, even balance for anything that you attempt, want to do in life. You know, even our relationships, they have to keep evenly balanced. So.
Right. And I have tended, I'll just tell myself here, I don't mind. We're getting real here. I have had a tendency in the past, this is very past tense because I've been single for a very long time. I was a serial relationshipist for a very long time, and now I've been serially single for a very long time. And my problem when I was serially dating was losing myself in that relationship. And like you were talking about it earlier, you like mold to the other person. I'm very water-like, and I have a tendency to take on aspects of the other and to kind of mold myself to what the other person, what I think they want.
Yeah.
That being said, it's been very long time since I've been in that situation. And I think that with my substance use and mental health recovery, that I will do better at being myself and being strong in that person when if I do meet that person. And then maybe we can procreate and have babies or adopt, I don't know how it's going to be, but.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You have to find yourself first and love yourself first before any kind of a relationship can work. You know, I mean, it's taken a lot of work just between my husband and I. He found me when I was broken. And I mean, I was broken. And so, yes, seventh son, it is hard to forgive yourself. But forgiving ourselves, giving ourselves grace makes moving on that much easier. It makes that letting go of feeling like a failure or feeling like you've let somebody down. Moving on from that is a little bit easier when we can say, okay, yes, I had part in that, but they did too. So I need to forgive myself so that I can forgive them or let go of what they've done. So
there is quite a conversation blossoming right now in the comments, and I'm just hoping to do it justice with trying to catch up on it. So Tampa B man, 30-year-old trauma is still controlling my life. And then Ben, 50-year-old trauma was controlling my life until just a few years ago. Tampa B man says, Ben, how'd you get over it? Ben says, the goat, who was the walrus, was that John Lennon or Paul McCartney? I don't actually know the answer to this question, but I thought it was going to get serious. Ben, did you give her a real answer? Okay, Ben says, I was under it, and I was under it until EMDR, which is what I've also undergone several EMDR sessions with my therapist. It was seriously a game changer. EMDR for me has been a serious game changer as well. And it is not for everybody. It's really, I'm not a mental health professional, okay, let me rephrase that. I am a mental health professional. This is not mental health advice. I'm not trained to give advice or guidance. I am solely trained to provide support in a professional manner. So I can tell you that for me, EMDR did wonders, but with the caveat that it's not a good fit for everybody, and it would be up to a mental health professional to determine if it was a good fit for you.
See, I never did do EMDR. I didn't need to because I was able to work through a lot of my issues between the journaling, the meditations, the getting out in nature, the just everything that I did for myself to help heal myself, using those tools that I learned about and just keeping up with it. Now, sometimes keeping up with my tools and doing the things I need to do doesn't always happen. I'm here to say you're not going to be perfect at it. Nobody's perfect, FYI. Just in case you thought you were, you're not. Blah. But yeah, it takes time. And like you said, EMDR, not for everyone. Just like what Liz Ferris is having done and what Farrell Cheryl had done, the injections. I can't remember what it's called, but it does a reset on your nervous system to help deal with really harsh trauma, like years and years of trauma.
Are you talking about ketamine treatment?
No, it's not ketamine. These are actual injections. You go see a neurologist or a pain specialist, and they do an injection, like right about in here.
Oh, okay.
And it does a reset on your nervous system.
Okay, my nurse practitioner has described ketamine very similarly to that. Only the injections are not here.
Yeah. Ketamine's different. Ketamine is kind of like taking a trip and talking about what's going on your brain. Whereas these are just, it's an injection and it takes a couple days to recover from the injection, but it just does a reset on your brain and your brain resets. And like when you go into a situation where you might normally feel anxious, you no longer feel anxious because your brain's had that reset to not respond to that trauma that you had in your past that's making you to want to respond to the situation you're in now.
Oh, that's interesting. If anybody knows what that's called, feel free to drop a comment.
Yeah, I don't remember what it is. So
no, that's okay. That's not a big deal at all. It's interesting.
So yeah, it's a newer one. Oh, I can't remember what his name is. There's a book out about it that was written by a doctor and an ex-Scientologist that he's had it done. And I can't remember what his name is, but Liz Ferris. Matter of fact, she's going to Austin, Texas in a few days, or about 10 days. And so...
Luke, EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It is. Go ahead.
How does that work?
I've had it done with two different therapists. One therapist used the end of a pencil. It had an eraser on it, like one of those big erasers. And she had me she would bring up, well, both of my therapists bring up very uncomfortable emotions, something that I just cannot deal with anymore, something that has come up that's causing me severe discomfort. And both therapists, one with a pencil with an eraser on it, would move the pencil across my line of vision, and I would follow it with my eyes back and forth. And the therapist I have now, she has an EMDR light, and the light actually moves back and forth, and I follow that with my eyes. They say, the research says that eye movement, like when you're in REM sleep, for example, causes processing or reprocessing. So the thought is that the research shows that the act of following an object with your eyes back and forth for a period of time, and then you like release after the light stops or the object stops moving, you kind of like take this deep breath out, like just release it. And then it's more talk therapy, but it's a very regimented way that the therapist interacts with the client, asks a series of questions. We have to rate our level of discomfort after the release, the breath. And usually for me, it's been a few cycles, and I have gone from a emotional scale like 9, out of 10, like just severe discomfort, down to a 3 in
Nice.
in 15 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah. And then it doesn't bother me anymore. It's like I have this different, I think reframing is a part of it, and they don't tell you that they're doing it, but part of it, after you have had the emotional release, part of it is, I think, the therapist guiding you to reframing the situation so that we can't change the past, we can't change what happened, but we can look at it from a different perspective that would be a little more healthy in life.
Right.
And I think that is sort of how it works.
Yeah, I can see how that would work, especially for people that have had like severe trauma that's happened to them, and everything like that. I didn't need it. I mean, I've had trauma in my life, but it hasn't been severe enough that I needed EMDR. But I would never, like, if something came up to where I did need it, I would not put it to the side. I definitely talk to my therapist about it.
It has done wonders for me. And I agree with you, Ben. It does take a good therapist to do EMDR right. And I am blessed with my therapist. She is amazing. Janet G, I didn't see you come in. Hey, Janet, nice to see you. Janet says, let me go back to the first one. Now that I'm sober, it's very hard for me to forgive myself for falling into addiction, which was alcohol. So dealing with sober guilt is different from guilt within a relationship.
What's your thought on that?
I want to go back to the first part because I think this is something that someone else made a comment. I can't remember who it was because I'm starting to get a little fuzzy, but someone else had made a comment that forgiving themselves was the hardest thing. And personally, that's something that I had to put on my inventory. I know everybody has feelings about 12-step programs. I got clean and sober for the first 16 months of my recovery. I've been in recovery now for over 3 years, thank God. But my first 16 months was spent in 12-step, and I did an inventory there. A very, very thorough, if you can believe that, inventory. And I had to put myself on that list, but I didn't think to put myself on that list until I had listed out every other single person. My sponsor described it, or no, someone in the program described it as a beef list, like write down every single person you have beef with. And this is the start of your inventory, because it's hard to list out people. Like, it's hard to list out everyone that I have hurt it's easier to list out everyone that's hurt me, but then you have to own your part in it too. That's part of the process. And
Yep.
so after getting through all of that, I realized how much I'd screwed up, essentially. And then I had to forgive myself. So it is really hard. It's a really, really challenging part of the process. It's a very tough pill to swallow, to have to recount all the people that I've hurt, all the situations that I've caused as a function of my addiction. Both, for me, it was both alcohol and marijuana, but also I had a stint with cocaine and crack. Sorry, Mom, but it's true. So owning all of the mistakes that I made, struggling with addiction for over 20 years, was a hard place to be at, but it led me to the point that Janet is talking about, exactly, that I had to forgive myself for all the things that I had done to people that I really loved. And so I see what I think I understand what you're saying, that sober guilt because of all the people that you've hurt and needing to go through that process of forgiving yourself. You're saying that it's different from feeling some kind of way when you're partnered with somebody or just a friend or something like that. But I in my experience, I think it is different because it was more difficult to forgive myself than it was to forgive a partner. But I don't know that that's necessarily what you're saying, because Janet's saying guilt within a relationship. And I think for me, and Janet, please correct me if I'm wrong. Can you hear that? Someone is doing some construction, apparently. I think these things are very similar. Guilt is guilt. For me personally, it was the hardest to forgive myself. That took some time. And it's a process too. I think just like forgiveness can be a process. It's not something that you just check off a box and you're like, okay, I forgive. And it's okay, I forgive myself. It's something that every time a memory comes up, if I haven't processed it yet, or even if I have processed it, it might still come up. And it's my responsibility to own that and to do something with it.
Well, good. I agree with you that guilt is guilt, but there are different types of guilt. And I think when we carry self-guilt, sober guilt, the guilt that eats us up inside, that we can't let go, yeah, that's hard to deal with. It's having to learn how to release that guilt and say, okay, I messed up, but now I'm doing better and I'm working at staying better and I'm going to continue to get better. So, and I've apologized to those that I needed to apologize to with sincerity. Now I need to allow myself to say, okay, guilt, it's time for you to leave now. And you can even put it in a box and lock it up in a box to put it away, if that's what works for you. I mean, people deal with guilt in so many different ways. You know, there's people that compartmentalize in their brains. And so, like, if they're feeling guilty, they'll be like, okay, I got to stop feeling guilty. So I need to put this in a box and lock it away in its little lockable, safe area so that I don't have to deal with it anymore because I've done the things I needed to do. And now I need to give myself self-care and self-love, and locks the guilt away. That's how some people deal with it. I just let it go. Takes me a while. It's not easy. But yeah, I just generally like kick it to the curb.
And for
Feed it
me,
to the chickens.
That works for some people. I needed professional support from like a medical or mental, both medical and mental health professionals to work through that stuff. Tampa B man, I had no idea until I just saw your comment here. Tampa B man says, I was kidnapped and held for almost 4 years, had no outside contact besides him. He threatened to kill me and my family. It's been so hard to deprogram. Yeah, OMG,
Oh
Tampa
my gosh.
is right. Ben, he was caught and went to prison. Tampa, I am so glad. Like, I don't even know what to say to something like this, but I'm just so glad that you're talking about it. I think that it takes bravery and courage to come out and say something like this. I've never heard you talk about it before. I do apologize for all of the background noise. I don't know why this, it's like evening
Sounds like
time.
they're putting screws in the wall.
Yeah, I don't know why at this hour, but hey, I can't control it. Tampa B man, I'm so glad that he was caught and went to prison. I can't even imagine going through an experience like that. But again, I'm so glad that you're sharing with us. Tampa B man also says, I have serious problems with using the phone and leaving the house. The community has helped me, and I've now had 3 therapy sessions. I've tried again after years of not trying. That is great. I wish I need like a trophy or something, like, how other people do. That deserves some serious recognition.
Yes.
And I want to commend your perseverance here, Tampa,
Yes.
because not everybody would be okay right now and able to talk about exactly what they went through. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Like, my job as a peer support specialist is to relate, but like, I just,
Yeah.
some things, it's like, I'm going to have to talk to my peer support mentor about this one, because I don't even know how I can relate to something like being kidnapped. I can't even imagine, Tampa.
It's so scary to think about. But I am so happy, Barbara, to see that you've done you're starting back to therapy again. That is so awesome.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a while to find the right therapist.
Yeah.
But if you persevere at it, if you keep trying, if one doesn't work, go on to another one and another one and another one until you find the right one for you. Now, for some people, that's not an option because of their insurance or whatever. They're stuck with whatever they're stuck with. But if you have the opportunity to find that one therapist that you click with, that just like everything's just right, hang on to them as hard as you can, because it'll make a difference.
Ben says penguins want to come in. I think he's saying that's what the noise is. Tampa loves penguins. I don't know if it's penguins or not. I don't know what's going on down there, but I do apologize for the noise. And I want to reiterate, Tampa, how proud of you I am for talking about what you've been through, because some people keep that kind of stuff inside and it doesn't do any good in there. I think it's awesome that you have had 3 therapy sessions so far. And I would encourage you to dig in and do the thing. Do the thing, because you deserve to have a life worth living where you don't feel like you have to, like what I have been through. I hesitate to share publicly because I don't want the person who put me through said event to see this and then come at me. But for my own safety, I can tell you that I lived at a safe house for a year, And so while I wasn't kidnapped, I can relate to being so terrified for my safety that I would go as far as to live at a safe house for 1 whole year, which those environments aren't very fun to live in either. So while it's not the same, I don't even know if I would call it similar, because I just can't imagine the fear that you must have felt for 4 years. I mean, that's excessive. So I'm with you, and you're not alone with respect to being taken advantage of, to being abused. I've been there too, so much that I lived at a safe house for a year, and I'm so glad that you're out now. I'm so glad to be out now to the point where I can talk about it. I wish I could really more sometime, someday on a platform that's not YouTube and that's not being blasted out to the entire world. I mean, my audience is small, let's be honest, but who knows who might see this eventually. So suffice it to say that you're not alone. And even though my experience is different than yours, I'm still here with you, and I'm really proud of you for speaking up. You should tell us who so chat can retaliate, says Scott. Tampa, I still think about him and dream about him. Like, I'll never be good enough for him, and no one will be as good as he was.
That's tough.
Yep.
That is tough.
I still have thoughts about, it wasn't a romantic partner, but I still have thoughts sometimes about what it would be like to go back and interact with this person as well. Tampa. I think it's, I've read that it's a common thing. I think there's a name for it as well, but I'm not a therapist, so I'm not going to go throwing out diagnoses, but I think there's a name for it.
Yeah, I know there's a name for it. I just can't think of what the name for it is.
Well, I'll say I have wondered if I had Stockholm Syndrome before.
That's it. And very well could be. Talk to your therapist about it.
Yeah,
that's all I can say is
I do need to
bring it up with your therapist and see what they have to say.
I'm gonna write
because
that down.
You're like me, you got to make notes.
Yeah, I'll forget if I don't write it down.
Oh, I write notes, lists, everything all the time.
Your to-done list?
My to-done list. I have other lists, like a grocery list or I need to talk to the guys about this list, or I mean, seriously, I have to make lists and notes for reminders, and otherwise I just forget.
Yeah. I just graduated. I just filled this one up completely, and now I have moved on officially to this one.
Mine are like things like this, or a little notepad, and then of course they get strewn everywhere, and half the time I lose them.
This one,
it's just like somewhere floating around my desk, in my filing cabinets or something, is the original list I made for my 10 children's books that I wanted to write. But if you were to ask me where it's at, I'd be like, oh.
It's easier to keep a hold of these ones for me.
Much easier.
Yeah. All right. I want to hear from you first on this one, Tony. Scott wants to know, if you were to describe yourself in a book, what would you say?
That's kind of funny because I have to do an author's description in my children's book. I am a writer first and foremost. Always have been, always will be. I'm a mom. I'm a grandma. I'm a woman. I stand on my own 2 feet. I carry myself most times with my head held high. And I love everyone. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you're from. I'll love you. There's a couple of exceptions to that rule that I take a very big disdain to because I do not like the word hate. I think it is one of the worst words in the human language. But for the most part, there's nobody that I don't, there's very few people I don't like.
That was very concise and well said. And all I can think of is, hi, my name is Tara.
Well, what do you like to do?
I love to talk with people. I love asking questions. I love yoga. I really like rock climbing, although it's been a few months. I love surfing, although it's been quite some time. I love cooking and making good food. Sourdough is my jam.
Obviously.
What was the question? Describe yourself in a book. I think my sense of humor is a strength, although I'm not always funny. I'm an engineer. I'm a loyal friend. And really, really love a great adventure.
I love going on adventures. They're so much fun.
Me too. Same.
They're so much fun.
Huge fan.
See, you just did it. You just described yourself.
Sweet. That was easier than I thought it was going to be because I was like, I don't know. Leah is in the house. I don't know if Leah is still here, but Leah, it's so nice to see you. So Leah dropping a knowledge bomb. Stockholm syndrome was never officially a thing. See, this is why I said I'm not a therapist, but I've heard it called Stockholm syndrome. More recently, I'm seeing it called the fawn response, in addition to the fight, flight, freeze list. Yes, which I fall into that category of fawn. I am constantly trying to appease and make sure everyone's okay and trying to fill people's tea because I feel like that will make me safe. That will keep me out of harm's way, but it doesn't work.
And I relate to that a lot.
I mean, sometimes
I don't
it
like
works.
people being mad at me. Don't be mad at me.
Right.
Don't be. I'm sorry. What did I do? Oh, I can fix it. I can fix it. Yes.
Yeah. Let me fix everything and just
again
lose myself.
FYI, all you can't fix everything. Some things are just not fixable.
Not fixable. Nope. And like Scott and I were talking about earlier, that's the biggest cause of peer support and burnout. Number one, lack of self-care. Number two, trying to fix people.
You can't fix them. They have to fix themselves.
Yeah.
It's just like I have to keep reminding myself that with my son, Axel's dad, because he needs to realize he needs to fix himself before he can be fixed. So it's on him. But it's hard to remind yourself that all the time.
Indeed. Indeed. I'm glad we learned it in training. That like it's something I think I'll remember for a long time because they really hammered it into our heads. And I think it's, I don't want to burn out. I want to be able to keep doing that. That's why I did yoga today. I'm so happy I did yoga today. Scott, last year I was trying to convince Kayla to live in a camper and homeschool on the road while I work construction gigs. Well, I love a good adventure. Yep, I say 2 thumbs up also. Tell Kayla, permission granted. No. You know what would be really cool? I would love to meet Kayla sometime. Just throwing that out there, Scott. Because I've met your daughter a few times. I've seen Eleanor, I believe is her name. I've seen her a few times, like in the Discord meetings. Oh, I forgot to drop a link to the Discord, y'all. Let me give you that link. Here we have been gabbing for 2 hours now. And if you're interested in a face-to-face meeting, much like what you're seeing today, except for everybody in the same place at the same time, on Thursdays, bear with me while they decide to let the penguins in again. On Thursdays at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time, we meet on Discord. It's a small group of us, but it's a face-to-face meeting. It's super fun. We meet for 90 minutes. People sometimes come late, sometimes have to leave early just based on their schedules. So everyone's welcome. We do keep it on a topic. Like I come up with a topic every meeting, and then people are welcome to share on that topic or to veer off and share something completely off the wall. And it's a fun time. So I hope to see you all there on Thursday. And I'm kind of feeling like we just hit the 2-hour mark. Tony, how are you feeling? Because I'm feeling like probably need to start thinking about landing the plane here.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think so.
We've both put out quite a bit, and I think it's time for you and I to do some recharging.
Yeah, I think so too. 2 hours is usually a pretty good. I've gone for 3 hours before, but then I'm pretty drained afterwards, and I still need to make dinner and all of that. So I think it's probably a good idea to wind down. I know that I missed some comments, and I do apologize, y'all. I'm trying to figure out this whole having a guest on thing and navigating the comments at the same time. Tara, that's why you said safe house. I just thought that was a different name for a homeless shelter. OMG. Well, it certainly was a homeless shelter, but like it was a women's not a homeless. It wasn't a homeless shelter, although I was technically homeless when I lived there. It was a women's shelter, but no, it was a legit safe house. I wasn't just making that up. I wasn't allowed to tell anybody that I was there. My family couldn't know. All I could say was that I was at a women's shelter, and I couldn't give the address to anybody. It was quite an experience. If y'all have questions about that, feel free to let me know, because my friend really wants me to create some videos about that. So if you're interested in learning more about what that experience was like, then feel free to hit me with your questions, because I have a year of experience in that place. And I'm allowed to talk about it. I just can't tell you where it is.
Well, my husband just got home, so I'm going to hop off.
Well, that's good timing. That's good timing. So,
Yeah.
Tony,
it was a good night.
You too. It was a pleasure. I hope to see you again sometime.
Definitely. I'd like to do this again.
Right on. Right on. We'll be here.
All righty. Bye.
See ya. Well, that was fun. I enjoyed that very much. What do y'all think? I've seen a few people talk about how they really liked the format, although I missed a bunch of comments. If you have something pertinent that you want to get through to me, if I missed something, there's just too much to go through. Please feel free in these last few moments to rewrite your comment in the chat. I want to take a couple minutes here, first of all, to express my gratitude for everybody showing up tonight. It has been a real pleasure. I have really enjoyed having Scott on, all the Tony, almost forgot her name. She was so awesome, and I like spaced her name for a second. Sorry, Tony. It was fun. I had a really, really fun. It was like an adventure, you know? The only thing that I got to work on is my comment game, because I think there was some gold that I kind of skipped over, and now it's going to be hard to go back and find it. That being said, I am now doing one-on-ones. I'm so excited. My schedule is starting to fill up, and people have really been responding to the intro special that I have going on right now. So if you want to book a private session with me one-on-one, you can email me. Let me put my email in the chat. I'm running an intro special right now. My normal rate is $1 per minute, but I am hooking y'all up with a 30-minute session for $15. Holla. So if you're interested in that, email me at tarasmiling@yahoo.com. I will get back to you. We can schedule a time and make it happen. I feel like that is all the content that I have, but I haven't even looked at my list in quite some time. I was going to tell you about oatmeal in a crock pot, let me check down at the comments and see where Conversations with Christy just rolled in. Hey, Christy, nice to see you. So I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to drop any last minute things that they wanted me to get to. I tried to get to all the things that really stuck out to me, but inevitably I let some things slip through the cracks, and I do apologize. As we land the plane here, I want to again express some gratitude, tell y'all how much I appreciate you. I could not do this without you. It would not be the same without you. So thanks for being here. I really appreciate you. Tampa B, thank you, Tara and Tony, and thank you, chat, for all your support. Can't tell you how much it helped. I'm so glad to hear that, Tampa. You are not alone. And again, the experiences that we have had and lived to tell the tale about show how resilient we are. If I wasn't resilient, I wouldn't have made it through that entire year at the safe house and everything that led up to that point. If you weren't resilient, you wouldn't have made it through your experience and be here and able to tell your story. And I like to think that someday my story is going to help somebody, like really, really help somebody, either to get out of a situation that's shady, or maybe just to be able to help someone from the story itself. That's the whole point of this channel. So thank you everybody for showing up tonight. It has been a pleasure connecting with you. Okay, so I think, oh, John, watch the movie Civil War. If you have your third eye opening, it drops gems. Okay, I've not heard of that movie. Thank you for the tip. Scott, how about that penguin from Billy Madison? It looks like the drilling stopped. Was there a penguin in Billy Madison? Christy, it's amazing when stories help someone it's amazing when it stories help someone, when stories help someone, and that it's sent to happen. I don't know if my brain has crossed wires in it or not, but I think I'm getting the basic gist of what you're saying, Christy, and that is that things happen in perfect timing. Stories that we share and experiences that we have seem to come up in perfect timing. I cannot type. That's okay, Christy. We can't be good at everything all the time. I think you're pretty good at typing most of the time. All right, everybody. So with all that said, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you as always. I cannot express enough gratitude to everybody. Thanks for bearing with my wires starting to cross since we've been on here for over 2 hours. I love you all very, very much. Remember, if you have questions about my time at the safe house, it's something that I do want to start talking about more. So feel free to bring them at me. And without further ado, I'll be looking forward to seeing you soon.